Change. Ah. What the hell is this? Ah. Sorry guys, some new things have popped, new features have popped up. Checking them out. Waiting for notifications to go out. Salute. I don't know if anybody's going to show up. It's Black Friday. We'll see what happens. If not, it'll be real quick. While waiting for notifications to go out, at least the, hey, bear down. How about them Chicago Bears, huh? Kicking ass. People are griping about them not being able to beat a team with a winning record. They beat the Steelers last week, and they beat the Eagles today. So we're still a game ahead of the damn Packers, but that's going to be an interesting December. Oh man. Anyway, for all you Americans out there, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Had some enjoyable time with the family, you know, got to eat the food and all that, and watch your football. And unfortunately, there was that attack in D.C. on our National Guard. And that is triggering Trump to take further action to accelerate what needs to be done. And it is going to happen. It is going to happen. We will not allow people to use our own system against us, to stop us from doing what we know what needs to be done. And it's deportations on steroids is what's going to happen. Whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. Law be damned. Screw your process. The deportations will accelerate post haste. And you're not going to be able to stop it. And that's all there is to it. You're not going to be allowed to use our own system against us. That's for us. Our system is for us. Our ancestors created it, and it's to keep law and order for us. And that may be kind of a harsh way of putting it, but that's all there is to it. We do not have to sit there and wait for society to crash down and fall around our ears before we take action. And it was kind of the final straw with the Afghani killing those 2 National Guard troops there in Washington, D.C. It is the final catalyst that Trump needed just to say, fuck it, turn in his risk cards and just basically flip over the gaming board. You had the seditious 6. They should be arrested and charged. Kelly, any of them prior military, needs to be put on a court-martial and probably serve time in Leavenworth. Their pensions need to be seized because they are seditious traitors. And now they're popping up billboards across the United States. That has to stop. Guys, this shit's going to stop. it's going to stop. What's up, Sid? Globalism is a failure, and it's proven time and time again, and it's killing Western societies. It doesn't have to be that way. It never should have gone this far to begin with. Go truck yourself. What's up? Just commenting a little bit on what happened this week. You know, everyone was off for Thanksgiving, or less a lot of us were. I was, finally. But what happened in D.C. with the National Guards and the Afghani, that individual was residing in Washington State, drove all the way to D.C. to commit the murder. Amazing. And unfortunately, when a lot of our National Guard are deployed, they don't carry live ammo. I don't know if a lot of you know that or not. Normally they're there for just keeping an eye on stuff, kind of like an unarmed security guard, right? They may carry a rifle, but there's no rounds in it. I think that's about to change. I think that's about to change. A lot of things are about to change. You have Ilhan Omar running her mouth. She's in very real jeopardy of having her citizen status taken away from her and being deported back to Somalia. She's not a naturalized citizen. You know, what can be given can be taken away. Yeah, well, I mean, if it comes down to it, yeah, that's where we're headed. We have half of the country basically in open rebellion. And you can't have that. I thought we learned this lesson like 150 years ago. I guess we need to learn it again. I know. A lot of things are about to change. And again, this leads back to what the point I was trying to make when I made that video about Rome and how our republic, or the vestiges of a republic, mirror what happened to the Roman Republic. Right now, our republic is dead. And we are going through a period of anarcho-tyranny. Meaning we live in a lawless state, except, or we have the law applied, but it's not applied evenly. It's just to your political rivals. It's a type of anarchy, and it's always transitory. It never lasts, and we're seeing that now. We're in the process of that now because anarchy is always susceptible to a strong man to come in and maintain order, because the people will eventually clamor for order. And they'll give up an awful lot to have order restored. And we are there. We're there. And we saw that with that CNN poll. with Trump's base still about 89%, it has not dropped one iota since he retook office. Now the independents of the Dems, yeah, they've switched, but Trump's base, steady Freddy. I agree, but we're going to have to change some laws rapidly to get a lot of that done. We're in dire need of a constitutional convention. We haven't had one in quite some time, and we're overdue. Some things need to be updated and modified to keep up with current times. Yeah, I think it's laughable that they're trying to claim that some of the shit that Trump has done is like a king. You know, one of them was Nancy Pelosi. She's been in office 37 years. Can you imagine? 37 years. Her nephew is the governor. You want to talk about a hereditary system? The Pelosi family, crime family, is running California. And they're worried about Trump? I mean, it's crazy shit like that that's coming out. No, you only have to be born. You only have to be a natural citizen to be president. You can be any other political office. And apparently even dual citizenship. We have a lot of dual citizens in Congress. That needs to stop. Hell, even Ted Cruz was a Canadian dual citizen until he ran for president, where he was shamed into giving up his Canadian citizenship to run for office. If he never ran for president, he would still be a dual citizen with Canada. That's just one example off the top of my head. And I actually like Ted Cruz. He said some really weird shit here lately, especially about Israel. You know, but as far as overall as a senator from Texas, I think he's better than Cornyn. I can tell you that. Yeah, it's but you should never have even a whiff of dual loyalties, especially serving in the federal, as a federal politician. That should never be a thing. No, it was never intended to be that way. Our system of governance has changed so much compared to what our founding fathers had instilled. You know, just like these morons that need a civic lesson, they keep calling our system a democracy. Or democracy's dying. We don't have a democracy. We have a republic. Well, what's remaining of a republic. A democracy is the tyranny of the majority. Republics actually have a tendency to protect minority rights. But that's the antithesis to a democracy. We have a representative form of government. No. Yeah, well, I guess she was getting strong-armed, and I think I heard somewhere in a podcast that she has designs to run for state office, maybe even governor at one point. I don't know, but when you understand how our political parties are set up, our political parties are actually corporations. They're private corporations, believe it or not. They're not for the public, if you catch my meaning. They are, the DNC, the GOP, are private corporations. Go look it up. And so, when you see the things about the primaries and who they want to support and throw the money behind, it's all lip service. It's just like the DNC primary. You got delegates, but then you have super delegates. And the super delegates are the ones that really choose the candidate, which is already known from the very beginning, and the conventions are just lip service. I mean, the GOP convention's a little bit more open, but they're both pretty bad. I mean, the only reason why I say that the GOP is a little bit better than the DNC is because a person like Trump did get the nomination and became president, whereas someone like Bernie Sanders had the primary stolen from him by the superdelegates for Hillary Clinton. So it's a little bit more on the up and up, but still, it's a money game. To be honest, it's a money game. That's a double-edged sword, man. I mean, I agree with you until Democrats take power and they have a simple majority, and then all of a sudden, it's like when Harry Reid changed the Senate rules to get Sotomayor and who was the other one? Oh, God. Kagan. To get those nominations pushed through the Supreme Court by a simple majority. Well, the Democrats lost the Senate. And McConnell, when he took over, didn't change the rules back. And that's how Trump got 3 justices pushed through the Supreme Court in one 4-year administration with a simple majority. And he was able to flip the, oh God, what was that old fucking marm's name? Ginsburg. Flip her seat for Republican instead of Democrat. So it's a double-edged sword. And they're reluctant to do so because the midterms are coming up. And there's no guarantee the Republican, statistically speaking, the opposition party usually takes the halls of Congress during the midterms. So we would have it for about a year before potentially losing it again. Now, nothing would get passed because Trump would veto everything coming out of there. Or at least I would like to think so. But then I didn't expect him to meet with Mamdani either. He shouldn't be meeting with Mamdani. He should be enacting the Communist Control Act in 1954 and taking his ass out of power. And telling the New Yorkers to redo the election. Pick somebody else. But Mamdani can't be one because he's a communist. Just because you rebrand yourself as a democratic socialist does not mean you're not a communist. So you replace a hammer and sickle with a fist and a rose. Doesn't matter. You're still a commie. And commies are forbidden from holding office in the United States. That's the law. No, you would need a constitutional convention prior to 2028 for that to happen. You know, the rule wasn't changed for the presidency until FDR. Prior to that, it was only a tradition of people only running for office twice. It's when one of the closest, after Abraham Lincoln, FDR was the next dictator we had in power as president. He literally died in office. He was going to be in there for like 16 years. He died with, I think he was in there for 12 years. He exacerbated the Great Depression. I mean, he got us in World War II. I mean, he fucked up our economy something bad. FDR did. He was a commie sympathizer. No way in hell we'd ever should have allied anywhere near Stalin. Stalin was as bad, if not worse, I would say worse than Hitler could ever have been. And we allied with that monster. No, fuck FDR. But the point is, after he died, they had another constitutional convention, and they changed the law where the president only could do 2 terms. Yeah. And I don't know if I want Trump to run for a 3rd time, to be honest. He's already 78. I mean, come on, guys. It's the presidency is not for old people. As much as I like some of his policies and what he talks and the way he acts, it's not an old man's game. Now, he's still kind of spry for being a guy pushing 80. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, time catches up with all of us at some point. And you really need to have alacrity and vigor as a commander-in-chief. You can't be a dotard, you know. And with the amount of traveling and campaigning and stress, it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, you go back and look at so many of these presidents when they first came into office and how they looked after they left office. And usually, because most of them were 2 years, 2 terms, excuse me. So 8 short years. You look at how they looked at the beginning and at the end, and see how badly they've aged because of the stress and the bullshit they got to deal with. Real world of tariff issues. If they take it away from Trump, our country is screwed. I don't know, because Congress, and we heard this from Speaker Johnson, they're okay with Trump utilizing tariffs, which is traditionally the House of Representatives' power. So if that branch of government does not have an issue with the executive utilizing it to save our economy, there really isn't a constitutional issue with it, and that's the only reason the Supreme Court would be involved. But see, here's the problem. Again, this is why our republic is about to die, and we're about to turn into, well, whatever Rome was when their republic, a dictatorship. But it was more than that, though. The beginning of a hereditary monarchy, maybe, or dynasty. I mean, that might be more appropriate. The Roman Republic was so feckless and corrupt, and nothing could ever get done with any kind of alacrity to solve the problems that were happening, like in the immediate. And they couldn't enact any policies or anything to get anything done. There was constant gridlock, and the people were tired of it. So when they had the option between Julius or Pompey, they were going to get one dictator or the other. They chose on Julius, but he got shit done. He got shit done. And the people loved him for it. They still talk about him to this very day. Can you imagine? And that's what's going to happen here in the United States. Our Senate, our Congress is so feckless and corrupt, they can't get out of their own way with all the damn infighting, that society is crumbling around our ears. And we are going to clamor for our own version of a Caesar to come in and literally seize control to right the ship. And that's going to come with it dictatorial, or I would say powers like a monarch to fix things, because you're not going to have we're coming to the point where the bureaucracy is becoming an impediment, and you're going to need somebody that acts like a king to come in and say, you know what, fuck you, we're doing it my way, or I'm going to hang you. for getting in the way. But we're doing this. And society is going to cheer that on. Because the process is the problem. It's too slow. It's too feckless. Too much infighting. The strong man will come in and stop all the bullshit. Stop all of it. Yeah, that's honestly, that's what needs to happen in the UK. And see that, going off of the weeds here, it is a big part of it, Sid. But yeah, a lot of the Europeans kept their monarchies intact. They're like vestigials, like vestigial organs, right? Like an appendix, but it's still there. And it's because the democracy or the republics that they established, those form of government, are new. They're still new. You understand that a monarchy is the most successful system of governments that mankind has ever created. Do you realize that? If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, because when these people get into power in the hereditary monarchies, they literally train the next generation of the king's children to become the leaders of that nation from birth. And that normally creates a very stable and competent leader. Now the problem with that is that future generations, about 5 generations later from that original monarch, that's when shit starts going sideways with all the inbreeding and the corruption on that end. But statistically speaking, historically speaking, it's our most successful form of government. And we're finding out why. We're finding out why Athens failed. Now, Athens was actually a democracy. They failed. Some things you can't just vote on. Sometimes you just need action. And sometimes you just need one person in charge to go tell some people, that's the direction we're going. We're solving this problem once and for all. And that's all there is to it. We're about there. We're about there. Because after all, our Constitution, our form of government, is only as valid as the faith and trust the people in the society that it governs over instills into it. Without that faith in the system, it's just words on an old piece of parchment. You know, and our Constitution is the oldest active Constitution. You realize that? A lot of constitutions have come and went since ours was created. So it's not the be-all and end-all. It's the people inhabiting the land that makes the rules, not the piece of paper, if you catch my meaning. Well, that's kind of what we were supposed to have here in the United States. The president is basically the king in all but name only. The Congress is supposed to be the deliberate part of our governance. You know, the common people get a representative, the House of Representatives. The states were supposed to get the representative of the Senate, but they changed that and fucked that all up on one Woodrow Wilson. None of that was supposed to be done by direct election, except for the House of Representatives, for the people's representative. The states were supposed to elect their representatives through the state legislature or the Senate, because the Senate is supposed to be the representative of the state. They fucked that up. The senators were never supposed to be a popularity contest. That's why it was so important back in the day to figure out who your state representatives were, so they would vote your way in the state legislature, and they would have a vote on who to make the state representative in Congress. You know what I mean? They've basically neutered state legislators for that. And that was our mechanism for recalling senators. We were never supposed to have a Democrat and a Republican senator going to represent one state. That was never supposed to happen. They were supposed to work together for the betterment of the interests of the state. And the House of Representatives are supposed to represent the people of their district. But we fucked that up. That's why I said earlier, our founding fathers would not recognize what we have. It's just like the vote. Not everybody was supposed to have the vote. Too many damn people have the vote. Too many people have the agency. It was never designed that way. It was never designed that way. Only people with skin in the game were supposed to get a say on what was going on in our country. At that time, there was white male landowners. We could evolve beyond that, you know, with being white. Just make them male and landowners. That still holds true today, or should. But now things are so fuckered up, we're about to get a monarch. I mean, legit, it probably won't be Trump, because he's too old. Now J.D. Vance, a Rubio. I mean, we'll see how they perform before 2028, but right now, either one of them could be the next president. And they're both relatively young as far as politicians go. Hell, I'm older than Vance. Vance is like 44, I think. He's a young guy. Rubio, I think, is in his 50s, but he was in the Senate for a long time. All right, what is this? Barron Trump. He's really young, but maybe. I mean, he's kind of like what I was talking about. You know, the children of the monarch being trained at a young age to learn how to lead a country, and I mean. He was relatively young when he was in the White House the first time. Now he's a grown man, young man, but he's grown now. So he spent a good chunk of his formative years in the White House, or learning how to run a business empire with his siblings. I don't know the kid personally. So who knows if he'd be good. I mean, he'd be a better leader than a lot of them out there, just because he's been trained to do it for so long. Seven Bubba Gamma. No, I did not. Did you? Hello, Steve. It surprised me. I mean, like I said, just look at the education requirements that a lot of our how even our rank and file did. I mean, our people graduating with a bachelor's degree couldn't pass tests that were administered 60 years ago. They just don't know enough about the subject matter. We're too widespread. The people back then were more focused on certain subjects and became masters of it. Rhetoric, math. You know, some people like philosophy. I personally don't like philosophers, but still, it does teach you how to think. I just don't happen to like a lot of philosophers individually, because it turns out a lot of them were pederasts and gold brickers. But you know, that's a different conversation. They were just trained to think analytically, and that's severely lacking in our education right now. Okay, interesting. A lease purchase. Sure, let's talk about it. Well, I mean, that's why a lot of people voted for Trump. Trump was the fuck you vote, especially the first time around. They're like, oh, look, Hillary caused what happened in Libya. She did. She was responsible for Libya and that clusterfuck that it's still fucked up today. And a lot of boat people are floating up on European shores because of Hillary Clinton destabilizing Libya. And now they have open air slave markets, and it's a clusterfuck, way worse than it ever was under Gaddafi. And then she had the audacity to run for office, like we wouldn't see that. And then when Trump's coup de grace was like, well, I would put you in jail. Now, unfortunately, he didn't fall through. He really should. That witch deserves to be in jail. And then her utter disdain for half the country recalling us deplorables. Fuck that cunt. And then we had her Indian clone, I mean Indian with a dot, the laughing hyena, fucking camel toe, trying to present herself as black. She's fucking Pajit. Alright? Fuck off. Her father was like African. Yeah, he was in the Caribbean. He was in Jamaica, I believe. But he's not even full black. She's mostly Indian. It is what it is, but she's just another. She was just as fake as Hillary. Remember Hillary's like, oh, I always walk around with hot sauce in my purse. Bitch, you grew up in Chicago. Shut the fuck up. You married a Southerner, Bill Clinton, but you weren't a Southerner. You're a Midwesterner. And yeah, no ways tired. And they change their accent and all that depending on the crowd they're in front of, you know? And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Fake as fuck. And Kamala was no different. She was just a bad Xerox clone of Hillary when it comes down to it. And that's why she lost. Yeah. I predicted that a while ago. I got a lot of flack for it, but you know, whatever. But you know, the AB5 type laws are going to take control because a lot of the leases are scams, unfortunately. And some people are too stupid to know better, and they keep falling for the scams. And it's turning out it's really hurting our industry, and it needs to be reined in. It needs to be reined in. So anyway. The same shit trying. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she tries like, oh, I'm black. Bitch, you grew up. Your mother was full Indian. Your father is half Indian, half Caribbean black. Maybe only a quarter black. But he was mostly Indian. You're Indian. Bitch, you're Indian. And you grew up in Quebec. And you only came to the United States, you know, basically after you graduated high school. Alright, it's just, she was fake as fuck. She didn't grow up like a typical black. She didn't grow up poor. Her father was a successful physician. She didn't grow up poor. It's like, shut the fuck up. And she was a horrible DA for California. Horrible. Turns out she cared more about her record than the actual innocence of the people that she locked up. Horrible. And it amuses me to no end that the Democrats are about defunding the police and, you know, pulling back law enforcement, but they were going to put the chief law enforcement officer of California with a horrible track record. And it's like, you guys are sniffing glue. You guys are, I mean, she's a horrible candidate. And she was, not only that, but she was also installed. She, nobody wanted her on the DNC, at least the rank and file. She was one of the early losers of the primary, and she only got to be VP under Biden because she was a minority and a woman. That was her qualifications. That's it. Kind of like Ketanji Brown for SCOTUS. He's like, nope, it's going to be a minority woman. That was the only qualifications he was looking at. So show me a list of minority women. That's who I'm going to nominate for SCOTUS. And then he flipped the coin, whoever was on that list, and was like, okay, this is going to be her. That's no way to. That's no way to run our country, man. Well, I have pity on him having to live with it. Well, yeah. The only reason Trump won against Hillary is James Comey. You should be thanking him. That wasn't the only reason. He was popular on his own right. He was a huge name for a long time. What, did we get to thank the FBI for withholding information about Hunter Biden's laptop? Did we get to thank the FBI for that? Do we get to thank the FBI with working with the Capitol Police to instigate a riot that was during a peaceful protest? That came out in the light, right? J6, that was instigated by undercover feds implanted in the audience, in the crowds. And the protest was all over D.C., but a small part of it got out of control at the Capitol building. The majority of that protest was peaceful. And again, it was the undercover feds that egged the crowd on to do the dumb shit that they did at the Capitol building. And yes, the Speaker of the House is responsible ultimately for the security of the Capitol. You have the mayor for the city side, Speaker of the House controls the security for the Capitol. So when they say that Nancy Pelosi did not authorize the National Guard to be utilized, it was her fault. It was her fault because she was Speaker of the House at the time. So yes, that was her fault. They purposely lit a match to a powder keg because the election was stolen at the ballot box. Mail-in ballots are election fraud. The Dominion machines, I'm sure they were working as intended by the Dominion company, but they were fucked with by the people that were leasing the machines. And we found out about that during the Cyber Ninjas audit in Arizona. Otherwise, why would have all those hard drives have been bleach bit like an hour or two before the forensic audit was supposed to take place? Because it was going to show the Wi-Fi connectivity. It was going to show the logins of the people going in there and tampering with the software. It was going to show a lot of shit. And tampering with evidence is an admission of guilt. Just saying. Kind of like Hillary smashing the cell phones, or having her staffers smash cell phones with hammers, and doing her own bleach bidding on the servers that were in her closet. Right? Same shit. Tampering with evidence before an inquiry or an investigation is an admission of guilt. Unfortunately, some people are above the law, and that is all there is to it. The tariffs are working. She says she's probably Canada. Yeah, she was. She was in Quebec. She knows. Too bad we have a. Well, that's not true. He wasn't, and you have no proof of that. See, you're talking crazy shit right now. You got no proof of it. You show me proof, I'll be behind you. getting rid of it, because I think pedos should hang. Absolutely. But you don't have any evidence of that whatsoever. You're just trying to wish upon a star so hard to make it fit your narrative that you really, really want it to be true so you can get rid of Orange Man bad. But that's not there. Now, is there other embarrassing shit in the Epstein files regarding Trump? Probably. But was he diddling kids? No. So what? What the hell does that prove? You realize Trump is the one that turned state's evidence over to the FBI that got Epstein arrested and sent to jail the first time around, right? Do you understand that? Once he found out the shady shit that Epstein was doing and became privy to that knowledge, he turned his ass into the FBI. He was an informant. He narked him out. To the point where, as it came out in the Epstein files, Epstein was on the phone, literally on the fucking phone, with congresswomen and men during inquiries regarding Trump, feeding them questions to ask to try to get Trump hemmed up with the law. They did not like each other. I'm sad for America because people, well, you know, tough shit. There's more of us than you. Well, here, let me help you out here. Go fuck yourself. How about that? You don't come to my channel and talk that crazy shit. I am the fucking dictator of this channel. Go fuck yourself. I don't know. You do a lot of crazy shit with AI now. But even if it were true, I mean, I don't know, man. That's why you don't do drugs. Stay sober. Because you'll do dumb shit like give a dude a blowjob when you didn't really want to. But you were so fucking coked out of your head, you thought it was a good idea at the time, right? How many dumb decisions have been caught on camera with a, like, it became it's a fucking meme. It's a hold my beer moment, right? Here, watch me go do something really retarded. Hold my beer. Exactly, Truck. Exactly. I mean, I've made that point. I mean, it's not just me, but I mean, if there was something there, Biden would have, or at least Biden's cronies would have utilized it against. They raided the man's home. The direct former president of the United States, they sent the FBI to his house over some bullshit archival issues that all former presidents do. All former presidents do. They tried to force him to sell his properties with punitive bullshit civil suits and bogus fucking charges. At best were misdemeanors, and they ginned up some bullshit to try and turn them into felonies. So if they had something as damning as Trump being a kid diddler, they absolutely would have nuked his ass, because him regaining power was or is the worst case scenario for them, because look what's happening to them now. And if there was anything there, they would have utilized it. Now, I think Trump probably has some embarrassing shit on there. Maybe he did give Bill Clinton a blowy. I don't know. It's not really relevant, though. It has nothing to do with levying tariffs and saving our economy from foreign slave labor. It has nothing to do with deporting illegals. and trying to fix our housing crisis because too many people were let in without being vetted, or going after all the myriad other issues that Biden put us through during his administration. So yeah, I honestly, I don't give a shit if he did gave him a sloppy toppy. I really could give a shit. What if Biden said if we release what they were trying to change the election, so they left it alone? I don't think so, man. It was full-on political warfare. You don't raid your political rivals and direct predecessor as a president's home with the FBI over some bullshit. And you're not going out for blood. No, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. How's he a racist? Now you're talking crazy shit. He got all kinds of awards from Jesse Jackson and the other black political leaders of the 80s. He opened up his country club. It was the first country club. He opened it up to Jews and blacks. What the fuck are you talking about being racist? Was that him or was that a housing manager? I don't fucking know. Do you have all the information on that? Was that Trump directly, or was that a manager that he hired that had the policies enforced, and the organization is so fucking big you can't stay on top of every fucking employee. That's why you hire other people to watch other employees. It's called HR. I don't know enough about it, and personally, I don't really give a shit. It has nothing to do with today. The Democrats loved him, absolutely adored the ground he walked upon, until he decided to run as a Republican for the presidency. And then the knives came out. And those are facts. If he was such a horrible racist, he wouldn't have been on there with Oprah. He wouldn't have had the television programs and all the other business dealings and everything else and people kissing his ass. All that changed when he decided to run for president as a Republican. Those are facts. I don't give a shit. He banged ex-porn stars, and he paid her off with an NDA, which is not illegal. I don't give a shit about his infidelities. I want good tax policy. I want the tariffs. I want the illegals gone. I want my industry, specifically in trucking, to be saved. And you know what? That's happening. That's happening. I don't give a fuck who he's diddling, as long as they're adults. I could give a shit. I could give a shit. The Democrats have fucked up our society and our economy so bad that I really don't give a fuck. I want the Democrats to be punished, and I want the ship to be righted and be set back on a proper course. And I want heads to fucking roll. I want my pound of flesh for what they have done to our society, and then I want our jobs saved. I want my kid to have a future in his own fucking country. That's what I want. And that's all there is to it. You're not going to change my mind. I don't give a fuck. I'm not a Bible thumper. I don't give a fuck. Doesn't matter. We already had a mob boss. It was called JFK. His fucking dad was a moonshiner in Boston. JFK was and his brother were up to here with the fucking mob. They helped him get elected back in the 60s. They stole the election from Nixon. Those are facts. The mob helped steal the election from Nixon. That's how Kennedy won. He was a fucking drug addict and a philanderer and everything else that you're accusing Trump of. But yet you have rose-tinted glasses for JFK only because the motherfucker was shot when he was president, which he tried to do to Trump. But JFK was a piece of shit. And so was his brother. Miss me with that bullshit. They're all rich and corrupt assholes. You don't look at these people as fucking your saviors. You look at them as tools. Which one of your tools is right for the job? Which one of these tools has your best interests in, or at least your interest and most aligned with, right? Who's actually talking bullshit and who's actually going to follow through on what policy. And then you pick the best of what's available. It's never going to be 100% of what you want, because that's all there is to it. Because they're dealing and having to make concessions with other corrupt assholes in our system. And again, this is why our system is collapsing. Our system is only viable in a high-trust society. We don't have that anymore. When we were more of a monoculture, America first traditionally, we knew who our neighbors were, and that made people predictable on how they were going to react to a situation. Yeah, but we don't have that anymore, because diversity is our strength. It's not. Diversity is divisive. Unity is strength. Unity, not diversity. It's always been a stupid fucking slogan. And look where it's got us. You have Biden up there. Oh, geez, it's a fucking great idea that whites are going to be the minority in our own fucking country. Because that's worked out so great everywhere else, huh? Shut the fuck up. Goddamn traitor sellout. Show me where that's fucking worked anywhere in the history of ever. Any of the people that had built a society has been supplanted by somebody else if they're going to run it better than the people that were already there. No, it doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. I remember when we loved Canadians, but now, hey, I got no problem with the Canadian people. It's like a lot of people say about, a lot of us, right? It's not the American people, it's the government. Well, I mean, it kind of is, right? Trudeau was the bastard child of Castro. And he fucked Canada up. And then, somehow, instead of Pierre Polivet, I'm probably fucking it up because I'm not a frog, they go with Mark Carney, who's not even a full Canadian. He's also a citizen of the UK, and he headed to the Bank of England, and where he fucked up the British pound. But he's not a full Canadian. He's got dual loyalties, and how he was allowed to be the Prime Minister of Canada is beyond me. I still don't understand how that. Imagine if that happened with an American president. Well, I mean, it kind of did with Obama and Kenya, right? But, a lot of shit came out with that with his fucking birth certificate. But anywho, that's ancient history. But at least Obama had to hide it, right? They had to come up with some bullshit fucking conspiracy theory machinations where carnies is out there, oh yeah, yeah, Canadian citizen, British citizen, whatever, came out of the ether to take Trudeau's spot. Hi, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's kind of what happened to Canada. And that's why they're getting fucked up. And it's sad. And it's literally tearing the country apart. Trump was a low... No, he's not. No, we were looking at Greenland. It's because they got rare earth minerals. And Denmark is too weak to control it. It's not only that, but Canada's still our ally, and if we control Greenland, that basically means we're going to control the majority of the Northwest Passage. And we don't want that falling into the hands of the Russians and the Chinese, not to mention the rare earth materials in Greenland. And again, Denmark does not have the economy nor the capacity to go in there and harvest the resources that would do a lot of people living in Greenland a lot of good. Just saying. We have the capacity and the know-how and the moxie to do it. They don't. I know. Obama was another Marxist plant. And I'm going to say that again. That's my mantra, and I've been saying it for a while. You don't debate Marxists, you defeat them. The time for talk is over. We don't speak the same fucking language. We don't have the same ethos. We're not the same. We're not the same. And what they consider their utopia, I consider a hellscape. And they keep trying with the same bullshit of like real communism has never been tried. That's bullshit. Real communism has been tried as close as we're ever going to get to real communism, and it's always bullshit. Always ends in abject misery, famine, and poverty. And a mountain of skulls. No. Repeatedly doing the same shit over and over again, think we're going to do it better the next time, when it never does, and it keeps getting implemented the exact same fucking way, is literal insanity. It needs to stop. That is why I call it an evil ideology. Socialism is an evil ideology. Because socialism is the foundation for communism and fascism, and ultimately Nazism. That was created by socialists for socialists. And we see how that goes down every single fucking time. Every single fucking time. It's an evil ideology. I already explained that. You can go watch a former video about that. I like Canada personally, but I wanted to build a shop, and now with the tariffs, it's gone up to 40%. I can't afford it now. No, that's unfortunate, but I know exactly what a Marxist is. Again, I've gone over these definitions before. You're just going to have to go watch the former programs to listen to it. I've already explained it ad infinitum. I'm not doing that every live feed. Sorry. I've already told you in past live streams and videos. Go look it up. I'm not your circus monkey. I'm not your knowledge on demand. There's only so many times I'm going to tolerate saying what the definition of is. Then get the fuck out of here, man. I don't know what to tell you. Well, we already did it once. I don't know. We never should have given up. That's one of our problems, man. If we were just half as imperialistic as people claim us to be, we would a lot of people would be much better off. We never should have given Mexico up when we conquered it back in the 1850s. Never ever should have given it up. And we didn't even start that war. That was Santa Anna, by the way. I know we get charged with fucking start. No, Santa Anna reinvaded Texas because they were petitioning to become a state of the Union, and they were about to be granted that status. And then Santa Anna sent the Mexican military in to invade Texas, and then that gave the Americans a casus belli to go in there and whoop his ass. And then we occupied Mexico City for 9 months. Bought Del Norte, like we bought the Louisiana Purchase in Alaska. Made the Mexican nationals that were already inhabiting the land automatic American citizens, and the rest is history. Hindsight being what it is, we never should have given it up. Just like we never should have given up the Philippines or Cuba when we defeated the Spanish in the Spanish-American War under McKinley and Roosevelt. We keep giving territory up. We give up Iraq. Why do we give up Iraq? I don't fucking know. Can you guys tell me why we gave Iraq up? Were they able to stand on their 2 feet? Were they able to defeat ISIS without our help? You know? Were they able to do any of that shit? No. We just keep taking territory and giving it away. That makes us shitty imperialists. I am for like keeping the territory. Why do we give up Panama? I don't fucking know. Ask Jimmy Carter. He ultimately gave up the Panama Canal for $1. That was fucking stupid. Why do we keep giving up territory? Giving up Panama gave us Noriega. We had to go and clean his ass out. Yay. We keep shooting ourselves in the foot because we're horrible imperialists. I know. But they're imperialists. They pine away. They only lost their empires because of World War I. World War I never happened. They would still have their empire. The British Empire would still be a thing. You think they would have given up India if World War I didn't happen? No. You smoking crack? Man, you need to study history better. Giving up territory is never a good thing. It's stupid. It's a stupid ideology. No, it's not. It depends on the empire. The Soviet Empire was bad, but a lot of you commie fuckwits are out there like, oh, it's so horrible that the commies fell and the Soviets fell in '89. No, that was actually a good thing. That was a good thing. Because they're commie fuckwits. Not all empires are equal. Not all empires are the same. A lot of people think the Napoleonic Empire was good things because of the civil standards were changed. I know I'm fucking it up. They changed a lot of the ways they were ruled. They gave people more rights, sort of. But compared to what they had, even though it was under Napoleonic, because he had Napoleonic law, right? It was more just than what they had at that current time. So a lot of people like the French Empire then. And a lot of Europe would still be under French control if he just didn't decide to go attack fucking the Russians. Anyway, go read a fucking book. I know exactly what a communist is. I know exactly what a communist is. No, he's not. Imperialism does not equal death. Imperialism equals rule of law. Imperialism equals an end of savagery and barbarism. That's what imperialism does with the correct empire. I would say even with the Soviets, with some of the territory they were taking over, you think the basket case of the stands right now, as fucked up as the Soviets were, they're more fucked up on their own. Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Ouagadougou, doesn't fucking matter. They were still better under the Soviets than they are right now by themselves. That's just demonstrably true. Yeah, I know. A lot of people like to dunk on the British Empire. Yeah, I mean, they conquered a bunch of fucking savages, but they also brought a lot of order to the world, a quarter of the world. They brought about a common language, currency, British common law. A lot of these places found out what rights were for the first fucking time because they weren't getting that under their fucking current leaders. Yeah. Was there some exploitation going on? Yeah. Yeah, there was. But even with that, they were still better off than they were with the old fucking administration. And that's just demonstrably true. Yes, exactly. Rules and structure. And that is human nature. We are a hierarchical, territorial species. We crave order. We crave somebody to make order out of chaos. And having a bunch of fucking cannibalistic fucking savages running around, eating each other and warring with each other and being literally stuck in the Stone Ages. And then, you know, they're actually shown what prosperity is and the concept of fucking, hey, make proper use of your time to generate wealth, to be productive, instead of sitting around on a fucking log scratching your ass all day. Whatever. It's not an excuse for violence. That's just human nature. And mind you, there have been many empires that have come and gone. It's not just the British. But usually the empire comes in because they take over a weaker culture that are a basket case and they can't protect themselves because they don't have the structure to do it. If they did, they'd be able to resist, but they don't. So the weaker culture succumbs to the stronger culture, and that's the way it is, in a way it is always going to be. Which is why it's so important that we maintain our strength as Americans, because we don't want the alternative, because the alternative means we get gobbled up by somebody else. And we know the ramifications of that outcome. So we should not actively want that. We want to stay on top for as long as we can, because the alternative is death. It's the same old feud, order versus chaos, chaos numbers until they don't. That's why they always fail. Right, and that's why anarchy is stupid. And it will always fail, because anarchy is, in the end, it's a bunch of individuals bumping into each other all day and basically forming little warlords and little fiefdoms, and then a stronger, more organized opponent will eventually come in and take them out. And then the new strongman comes in and they impose their order on all the chaos, all the anarchists. Yeah, that's why ANCAPs are fucking retarded. They're no better than the fucking communists, as far as I'm concerned, because they think that the person with the most stuff is going to win, and they can just do whatever the fuck they want to whomever they want because there's nobody there to stop them. And that's great. It's temporary until somebody comes around and like, I'm going to come take your shit. And all you've done was save me the effort of having to go gather it all myself. We're just going to take it from you. It's kind of like people that are going to hoard supplies during an apocalypse. They think they can go in a bunker and hide away with a bunch of fucking resources, and they're not going to be found out and waited out, right? It never works out that way. You just made it a convenient place for the people to come take your shit, and eventually enough people will show up to come take your shit. So it is what it is. Yeah. I didn't even know that was a meme, but it's the truth. They will eventually find out where your air shaft is. They will clog it up or put smokes or whatever and smoke you out of your fucking bunker. You will come out, maybe guns a-blazing, but there will be one of you and like 100 of them. It'll be like Butch Cassidy. Did you ever watch the end of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid when they were down in Bolivia? You know, Butch and Sundance are putting up a good fight, but in the end, it was just two guys. they weren't taking out the Bolivian military, and eventually they got shot up. Yeah, they took some Bolivians out with them, but eventually they died. And that's what would happen to these people. As El Duce found out himself. Because that day, we were all Bolivians when they killed that fucktard. There'd be hope under King Charles. Well, the problem with Charles is that he's an Islamophile, and which is pretty interesting, as he's supposed to be the keeper of the faith. What is the point? I never can get a solid answer to this from them. What is the point of having a state-sponsored religion in the Church of England, and if you just allow yourself to be supplanted by a third world fucking religion in Islam in your own goddamn country? That's one of the titles of the monarch of England. He's the keeper of the faith. He should be going out there with a flaming fucking sword and setting fire to every one of these fucking mosques that have turned up on his goddamn land. He should be dissolving Parliament, wresting control, because Parliament is too feckless to keep Britain British. He should be rounding up the fucking Brits and taking their country back. That is the only reason the monarch. That was the point I was trying to make earlier. The democracies, these parliaments, these republics are vestigial, or not vestigial. They're too young. They've kept these monarchies around in Europe because they're in case of emergency, break glass. We can pull the monarch out and have them right the ship again. Right? We can give the monarchy back their power to correct whatever needs to be corrected at the time. That should have happened already in England with King Charles. His mother lasted too long. He's an old man now, dying of cancer, and he's kind of a fucktard. Because unfortunately, the royals are all super inbred. They just are. They all marry their cousins. They're like a lot of the Islamists out there. It turns out there's a lot of cousin marriages going on, and you do that for a couple of 100 years, and you breed a bunch of fucking fucktards. You eventually have to widen the gene pool, and the people marrying, having offspring, should not have the same grandparents biologically. Just saying. Yeah. Well, it's true. There are commonwealths. So is Australia, for that matter. The only lands that gained true independence from Britain were India and the United States. Canada and Australia still have the monarch's visage on their currency. They're commonwealths. They still have royal liaisons that are part of the government. Did you guys know that? They're still they are independent, but those territories are still technically owned by the British monarchy. They have been given a certain amount of independence, and they're still forced to pay lip service to the British monarchy. And legally speaking, the monarch has the right to come in and take back whatever independence he gave their colonies and take direct control over the territory. Look it up. At this point, your courts are His Majesty's court royalty. Hello, Royal Canadian Mounties. Who's the royalty? Who's the monarch in Canada? It's not the Canadians. It's the British monarchy. Hello? They're commonwealths. Again, the only two territories that I'm aware of that gained actual independence were India and the United States. The rest are commonwealths. If you think I'm wrong, go look it up. They actually have to appoint a liaison to the British monarchy and their governments. I forget what the official name of the office is, but it's there. You know, whatever. Either you're going to look it up or you're not. See, I don't think so. I think they gained full independence back in the 50s. Because the Queen used to be the Empress of India, but that's no longer the case. That's no longer the case. They gained full independence, as far as I'm aware, back in the 50s. No, it's an actual. God damn it! I can't look it up because I'm on the phone right now. There's an actual office where they have. What the fuck is it called? I'm spacing out on it. But I remember hearing about it, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. You know, that was one of those kind of deals. But they explained it. But yeah, it's actually it's a representative. They elect a representative that they deal with for the royalty, and then that person, you know, for any policy decisions, takes it to the British monarch, whoever it is at the time, and that's who they talk with, so they can talk to the Canadian government in the Parliament. I'm sure. I'm sure there are still some ties, right? They were still part of the British fighting forces in World War I, right? With the Canadians and the Australians. That's the reason the Australians were storming the beaches in Gallipoli and getting shot up by the Turks, because the British monarchy told them to go do that. It was all part of the British. I forget what the official name of it is, guys. I mean, to be honest, it's been over 100 years, but it's just they were part. They were still part of the British Empire back then. They didn't fully gain independence, or not gain it. They're not fully independent now, is what I'm saying. That's why it's cute when they say that Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. No, he's not. He's the richest private citizen of the world. These monarchs own whole countries. They are trillionaires, like multiple times over. It's like Tsar Nicholas before he got deposed by the commies. And he wasn't a Boy Scout either. He wasn't any better than what Stalin and Lenin were. But the Tsar technically owned everything, even the people that inhabited Russia or the Russian Empire. You think about it, he owned every hectare of land, every person, everything. Everything was basically on loan or at the purview of the Tsar. Well, that beats the shit out of anything that any private businessman can own. They don't own whole countries. In 82? Oh, okay. Yeah. We didn't screw with the Canadians. They were British at the time. Come on, man. That was the British military, and it wasn't the Canadians. They own the land and the resources of that territory. All those countries pay tax. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the War of 1812 doesn't get enough airtime as far as it was literally the second war of American independence. We almost lost our new country then, and Britain wasn't even trying to fuck with us that hard because they were having to deal with Napoleon. Believe it or not, they don't really call it a war over in England, but we almost lost it because we were still licking our wounds from when we won our rights in the revolution, but we weren't quite there yet. And yeah, we almost they burned the White House. They burned the White House to the ground. That's where we got the Star Spangled Banner from. Was the bombing of Baltimore. You know, that's where Fort McHenry is. It was protecting the bay into Baltimore. And if you guys are history buffs and you want to know what was going on with Francis Scott Key when he penned the Star Spangled Banner, you should there are some good documentaries on that, on what was really going on at Fort McHenry and how brave our people were. You know, when they saw dawn's early light and our flag was still there, just on a sidetrack, the people of Fort McHenry, the brave souls there, were under constant bombardment by the British Navy. And they kept aiming for the flag, the mast, and they kept knocking it down, and the people of Fort McHenry kept cobbling the staff, the mast, back together to hoist the flag. And in the end, the only reason it was standing is because there were so many dead bodies that were at the base of this fucking mast that they kept erecting, that they made a base of bodies to keep the fucking flagpole up, because that was the conditions for surrender that the British were demanding of the fort, to lower the flag. And they kept putting the fucking thing back up, held together with cloth and literal bodies. Really need to go listen to that documentary. It's amazing what those people went through. The show of defiance. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we don't really count frogs. Yeah, it's whatever. They're like I mean, we got to deal with it with the fucking New Orleans, I guess. So I feel your pain, Canada. Yeah. Yeah, he was out. He was a lawyer from Baltimore. Francis Scott Key is a lawyer. He was sent out as a negotiator with the British admiral. And there was a few British ships out there, but the Armada was on the way. And he was telling them that the war is basically over, and they were going to level the fort to the ground. You really, guys, you really got to go listen to the documentary. Got to go listen to that. The sacrifices those people made as a show of defiance, I mean, it was astounding. No, they could not. No, they could not. They did not have the people. I mean, and yeah, I mean, the British were there, but again, they had to deal with Napoleon. They had bigger fish to fry closer to home in Europe. If they didn't have to worry about Napoleon, I mean, yeah, you could have made a claim, but Even back then, the Canadians didn't have enough manpower. I mean, hell, we almost got into a war with Canada over a goddamn some bullshit islands out there off the Pacific Northwest, and that's how we ultimately, when we ultimately drew our boundary with Canada, we got into a major pissing match with these fucking islands out there with fucking Washington State. That by itself was a pretty interesting read. You should go look it up. I think it was called the Pig War. A literal pig farm almost started a war between the U.S. and Canada. Well, they were going to make Washington a monarch. It was Washington decided to say, no, let's form a republic. Believe it or not, they were going to make Washington a monarch. Things would have gone a lot differently, I can tell you that. How even Adams was trying to British us up by giving people special titles and basically create a nobility, and he got fucking kiboshed with that because he was vice president. So he was always trying to pontificate as the president of the Senate. And I mean, he was still the second president, but still, they were trying. He was trying to make us. Of course, that was their frame of reference too, right? I mean, that's where they came from. And a lot of Americans were monarchists at the time. I mean, it was only it wasn't the majority that actually participated in the revolution. So that's what they knew. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, there's truth to that, but in the end, he was kind of a warlord too. He was a warlord that won the conflict. And I think that's where we've backtracked as Americans as far as our government goes. It used to be commonplace to elect generals as president. The last general that I'm aware of that we elected as president was Eisenhower. But it used to be really commonplace to have a general or somebody that was higher up in the military. I don't know if Jackson ever got to be a general, but he was at least a colonel, and he won the Battle of New Orleans, right? So it used to be commonplace for distinguished military personnel to hold office, and that was apropos because they were the commander-in-chief. You would want somebody with military experience to be commander-in-chief, right? No, not so much anymore. And I think we've suffered as a country for that lack of experience. What's happening, Jeff? It was a different era, man. It's kind of like arguing about the NFL, which player is the greatest player of all time, right? Well, it's a different era with different rules. It's kind of hard to tell. It's kind of that debate, you know. They were a man of their time, and some were good, some were duds. Let's just be real about it. Who remembers Franklin Pierce or Millard Fillmore, or I don't know, pick another one. Nobody remembers these people. There's a reason for that. Some were good. Some were just fucking violent. Andrew Jackson was a violent motherfucker. I mean, he was a bloodthirsty guy that didn't take any shit, but he knew how to party. You should read up on his inaugural party, but on the White House. What happened? It was just a drunken orgy, basically. But that old dude, he damn near beat a potential assassin of his to death with his cane. He didn't take a lot of shit. I said Millard. I said Millard Fillmore. Pretty sure I did. There were some other ones too. I mean, some died early in office. Garfield, McKinley. God damn, there was another one I thought. Tyler. No, not Tyler. Tippy Canoe and Tyler too. Who was Tippy Canoe? God damn it. No, not McKinley. McKinley was assassinated. God damn it. Anyway, the guy, the Tippy Canoe guy, he was known for that because he was a war hero. Battle of Tippy Canoe. I can't remember the guy's name, but he died early in office from it. He actually died from an illness. And John Tyler was the vice president. He ran basically the majority of that presidency. I'd have to go back and look it up, but whatever. 8,000 troops in 1812 compared to only 11,000 Americans. The British had superior arms. They could have run us over, but only wanted the mineral. Yeah, no, they could have. And they may have, but Napoleon was a thing. That's when he was barnstorming across Europe for the second time and kicking their asses. And they didn't really have time to fuck with us. And honestly, you know why that war started, right? Well, he needed money for it, and in the end, we were going to take the territory anyway, so it was an easy sell for him. Yeah, he had some colonies over. He had New Orleans, and then St. Louis, and some others, right, along the up and down the Mississippi. But he wasn't going to be able to keep it anyway. We were eventually going to take it, and he saw the writing on the wall. And as an expression of goodwill, he sold the Louisiana Purchase to Jefferson. Because Jefferson was a Francophile, and but that was with the monarchy and not necessarily Napoleon. And so yeah, people get that fucked up. It's like, yeah, we got along with the French monarchy, but not so much Napoleon. But anyway. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it is what it is. Russia wasn't going to be able to keep Alaska. Again, Russia wasn't going to keep Alaska anyway. They could barely hold on to Siberia. Well, what the hell are they going to do with Alaska? I mean, they had Russian forts all the way down to northern California. It's the same problem that Spain had. You can go plant your flag in an area, but unless you actually send people there to occupy the territory, the claim doesn't mean a damn thing because you don't actually control anything, especially when you don't pacify the natives. Spain claimed whole swaths of territory in North America, but they didn't send enough people there to pacify the natives. So did they really own the territory? No. The natives didn't know who the fuck the Spanish were. Some Franciscan monks and a couple of conquistadors that would roll through every once in a while, but they never held the territory. You know that's the Russians were doing the same thing. They didn't have enough people to occupy all the territory they were claiming. So they were lucky to get any money out of it at all, to be honest. Any of these people. Ah, yeah. That's a funny, since we're talking history, that's a funny little thing about Japan. It wasn't the 2 nukes that we dropped on Japan that forced the surrender, the unconditional surrender of the Japanese emperor. You know that? That wasn't the final straw that made the Japanese emperor capitulate. The Soviets had just broken through, and they were getting ready to make landfall because they wanted to be part of the action so they could take some territory from the Japanese. And they already had the Russo-Japanese war over some islands. But now that the Soviets were in control, they didn't want to be Eastern Europe. So they had their choice of overlord, either the Americans or the Soviets. So they chose the Americans, but the Soviets were about to make landfall in Japan, and that was the final straw. that forced them to surrender. I don't know why that's not taught, but I mean it's there in the history. Yeah, exactly. But they like to say it was the 2 A bombs. I mean, yeah, that's part of it, but the Japanese were going to make that a slog to go from town to town, city to city, to force the surrender, because they were following Bushido, and it was the God Emperor, basically. So they weren't going to give up willingly. They were going to charge a pound of flesh for every inch, but they weren't going to be under the Soviet control. So they chose Americans. And in the end, they chose wisely, because they are much better off now than they would have been under the Soviets. I think, anyway. Yep, they still have an emperor. And again, they're kind of like the British monarchy. The emperor is technically vestigial, but they still have power over the parliament, about dissolving the parliament or allowing the parliament to come into session. And a lot of the Japanese still hold, a lot of the bureaucrats still hold loyalty to the emperor, because the people that are in charge of the bureaucracies are old Japanese families that were the old nobility. So they're still very much entrenched. So they may not have the power as they used to, but they still hold power, because in the end they're still very, very rich people, and rich people hold power anyway. So yeah, there's still a lot of loyalty to the Japanese emperor. Yeah, because the Soviets would have destroyed the emperor. They would have destroyed Shintoism. So they would have just they would have done everything like they have done with every other Soviet satellite state, because they're fucking communist fuckwits. They go in there and erase your culture, and they built you up as a Soviet, right? They'd remake you in the Soviet image, which makes you retarded, basically. And that's why they didn't last. Again, communism doesn't last. The Soviets didn't even make it 100 years before everything went tits up. Because communism is a failure. It's a stupid fucking, it's an evil ideology. It's a bad combo to be stupid and evil. So you commit a lot of atrocities, but in the end you don't last, because you're fucking retards. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, savagery and brutality only get you so far. You only can scare people so much. Even a fucking wild animal that's cornered will eventually turn around and fucking fight as best they can to fuck you up before, they succumb. And eventually you corner enough wild animals, and eventually you get eaten. And that's ultimately what happened to the Soviets. Alright guys, well, I'm going to bed. I have to get up in the morning. It's good talking to you. spending your day after Thanksgiving with me, bullshitting a little bit about politics, and I appreciate it. But just remember, Marxism is for retards. By and for the retards. And don't debate them, because there's no point to it. It's an evil ideology. I would no more debate a Marxist about coming into power than I would debate a Nazi to come into power. It's stupid. You don't open your door up to any of these ideologies, especially when they're based in socialism. Trump is about to go off the fucking deep end and kicking some fucking heads. People are going to be sent home. Laws are going to be rewritten or just flat out ignored. And you're going to start seeing a lot of things happening that you think aren't constitutional, and they may not be, but it doesn't matter, because the will of the people says this is what we want. And it's basically the end of our republic. But it's got to happen because our republic has been corrupted to the point where it's you basically have to burn it down and start over again, because it's been so bastardized and the rules have been ignored for too long. It's got to go away. It's got to go away, unfortunately. So we're going to be in a time of great upheaval, but in the end, something else will emerge to bring order out of chaos, and hopefully those people will get it right, at least for a period of time before they get corrupted and the cycle repeats. It is what it is. Hopefully the world doesn't burn down while we go through that process, because a lot of the bad actors around the world will be off the leash, so to speak, while we unfuck our own shit. And so that's gonna be fun. But there's no other way around it. We're gonna have to be purged through fire, and wait for, hopefully whatever takes its place, like the phoenix rising from the ashes, is better than the original. But we'll find out eventually. But you guys take care. TC out.